Good evening. I'm Anchorpete, and I'm here with my wife, Shari T. And tonight we're going to talk about episode 1 of Lisey'S story, which just premiered on Apple TV. Did I say Lisey right?
Yes, you did.
Ooh, okay.
It's supposed to rhyme with CC.
Okay, good. Just a little, what do you call that? Cleaning house or whatever, house cleaning with you guys, right? A lot of you are probably with us from our Mayor of Easttown coverage. And if you've carried on onto this show, you're awesome. And I'm guessing that some of you are probably going to be Stephen King fans, which we've talked about Stephen King on this channel. And we've also talked about Stephen King on the Lisey'S channel, Shari and I. Shari and I, we covered The Stand when it was on CBS All Access. And we covered The Stand with our friends Danny and Athena. So we are no strangers to talking about Stephen King adaptations.
And we've also talked about Carrie and Misery, which are a couple of my favorites. We're fans.
Oh, yeah, we're absolutely fans. Yeah. If you go on this channel, you can look and we have our Carrie video and our Misery video. And then on the Lisey'S channel, we talk about, Dr. Sleep. And we also talk about The Stand, the most recent adaptation.
And Gerald's Game.
And Gerald's Game, too, yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I'll give you a little tidbit right now, because you just brought up Gerald's Game, and I talked about Dr. Sleep. So Mike Flanagan, he tweeted about Lisey'S story, and he said that Lisey'S story is one of his favorite Stephen King novels.
Okay. So. It is Stephen King's favorite novel.
What? Really?
He has said it is his favorite, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's because it's very personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so from what I've heard, okay, so let's just tell you guys a few more things too. Shari and I both have the audiobook of this story, and we both just started. And I think it's safe to say that both of us are not too far into it, right? I think I'm in like an hour, maybe like an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the 4th CD, which I think they're about an hour each. So I'm like 4 hours in, but there's 16, so I have a long way to go. So I definitely don't. I understand some things that happened in episode 1, but there are some things I have no idea. So I'm trying to deal with the fact that I'm reading the book at the same time as seeing things that are happening on this show. And I'm going to try to judge the show without the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Are you going to try to finish the book before we get much further into the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the weird thing about Apple TV is that they released episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the show, but then it's going to be a week-by-week basis after that.
So, every Friday?
Every Friday, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be you'll definitely see us on Fridays to review this.
Yeah, I'm going to give up my Joe Bob Briggs to go watch Lisey'S story with my wife over here and review it. Hopefully the show is going to be good. I was thinking the first episode, though. What about you?
So you liked this episode?
I did.
I think I liked it, yeah.
I liked it a lot better than the Stand show so far. What about you?
I wouldn't say a lot better. I feel like... Can we get more specific?
Yeah. I can tell you exactly why I liked it better.
Sure.
So it might be because I was very invested in The Stand. The Stand might be my favorite Stephen King novel. I just read it before we watched the show. And, I always loved the miniseries too, right? Now, this novel, like I said, I just started reading it. I'm not super familiar with it. So maybe it's because I was so invested in The Stand, I was more critical. But what I will say about this show, the reason why I like this show was because I thought that the kind of the direction of it, the style of it, was just interesting in itself.
Yes, I did notice the style. They center a lot of they do a lot of centering, where the person's in the middle of the screen. That's a director choice.
Yeah.
It looks good here. It definitely looks beautiful.
Yeah, the show kind of reminded me a little bit of Legion, which I know you haven't seen, but that's a Noah Hawley show.
I've actually seen a couple episodes.
Okay, all right, well, never mind. But with Legion, and you probably from those first few episodes, you kind of could see that it's not necessarily linear, where it's this happens and this happens and this happens. It's sort of, you're kind of what am I watching someone's flashback? Am I in a dream? Where am I? That kind of reminded me of this show a little bit.
Yeah, and I can't help it. I have to bring up the book since I'm listening to it. It's totally non-linear. I mean, there's tons of flashbacks.
Well, yeah, we
have the premise is that Julianne Moore is the widow of a famous writer. Her name's Lisey Landon, and her husband was Scott Landon, who has passed away. And it's 2 years after his death, and she's dealing with grief. basically. But she's also dealing with like some bigger issues, some of which are not clear in this episode, and some of which are clear in this episode, which is, the stalker rabid fans who want her husband's work.
Yeah.
Now that he's passed away, they feel like they have a right to it. And of course, legally, emotionally, she's the one with the rights to the work.
Yeah. And I'm going to dive in right there with you. But before I do, I just want to say two things. It's going to be spoilers for episode 1 and spoilers for what Shari's read in the book so far. So.
And you? I mean,
yeah.
You don't consider yourself having.
Yeah. So you're warned about spoilers. It probably covers like at least the first 3 episodes worth of spoilers based on the book. But besides that, if you guys have not liked and subscribed, we would love you to do that and come on this journey with us. And as always, we love when you guys comment too. So please just tell us what you think. If you have seen the show, if you've read the book, let us know what you think of it so far. All right. So she has his rights, and she's getting pressured by this one guy who was present for when he was shot, right? And what's the guy's name that was pressuring her?
Dash meal.
Dash meal. Because it's like when you're hungry, you got to
dash for a meal. Yeah.
That's right. And that is from Dane DeHaan, by the way. He's not Dash Meal. He's this guy that's working with Dash Meal. And in this episode, he's going by the name of Jim. But you were saying that in the book, he has a different name, right?
Yeah, in the book, his name's Zach McCool. Or that's what he tells her his name is. Of course, it's not really his name, but that's the name he gives her on the phone.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of doing like not exactly a crank call, but he's threatening her over the phone, and she doesn't know him. So whatever you want to call that.
And he says that one line that he said in the show, too. He said something like, I'm going to hurt you in places where you didn't let people touch you in junior high or something, or junior high dance or something.
Yeah, it's a good line. It's a very creepy line for a girl. I think it's very specific, and we all kind of get that, what he's getting at, And,
yeah.
It's really uncomfortable, and Stephen King is really good at touching on those. I don't know how he gets into the minds of girls the way he does, but he's pretty good at writing women and girls, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a little thing that we can unpack right here, too, right? Is that, like you said, this is very personal for him. And I think that this story was written basically to be about his wife, Tabitha King, right? And he is essentially Scott Landon, right?
Yeah. I can't help but think about that. And I've read about why he wrote this book, which is that he had that major accident.
That was in 1999.
In 1999, and he almost died. It was not by a stalker or anyone shooting him, though. He it was a car wreck, right?
There was a guy
almost hit by a car.
So Stephen King goes for a walk every day. That's how he gets his exercise. He goes for a walk, and he was walking, and there's this guy that was like, I think he was high on drugs, like some pills and stuff, and he just like swerved in his van and hit Stephen King.
Okay, so it was an accident, a car accident.
Total accident. Yeah.
Right. But he almost died, and apparently while he was on his deathbed, his wife started to clean out his study. And when he came home, he was like shocked by this, and like it made like his own mortality, like it hit home, and he decided to write this book. And who knows what went on between Stephen King and his wife to produce the story, but the story is very much about a husband and wife and their intimacy and their love and all. And like at the opening of this episode is every marriage has its own secrets or something like that.
I wrote down, every marriage keeps its own secrets.
Right. So this is going to be about their marriage and all the little details. And the book is already doing that. They have like their own secret language kind of. And you and I are married. And I know we have some of those things too. We don't ever talk about it, but you say certain things or make certain faces, and I know what it means that anybody else wouldn't, and I think that might be true for a lot of people who've been married for a long time.
Yeah, of course. Like if I ask you if you want to go plant some roses at the cemetery, you're going to say...
Shit, yeah. I mean, it's a private joke between us.
Yeah.
And there are many. So...
Yeah, that's just one.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the book has been about so far for me, but it looks like there's going to be a supernatural element, which...
Yeah.
What do you think of that so far in episode 1?
Oh, well, I'm so glad that you asked, Shari, because Stephen King, he has these things that are just like interwoven through all of his stories, right? He has people that can predict the future, like in the Dead Zone, right? He has people that will like literally suck the essence out of you, like these, scary people in Dr. Sleep. And Clive Owen, in this show, Scott, at one point he kind of like sucks this bad essence out of Lisey's sister, right? Lisey's sister has mental illness and she's catatonic. And in a flashback, she's in this catatonic state as well. And he comes up to her and he's like, I have this secret. I'm going to just share it with you. You can't tell anybody. And he like goes like this, like he's going to kiss her. And he just like sucks this like essence out of her.
You think he sucked it out of her or he gave her something?
I think it looked like he sucked it out of her.
I don't think it was clear, but
yeah.
I thought he fed her something personally.
Right.
She was like talking about water and how that tasted so good.
Gave her a drink. Okay.
Yeah, he gave her like some sort of drink. And like there has been a theme in the book that we've read so far about you gave me ice or water or something.
So
I feel like all over the place because I'm halfway in I'm into the book. I'm also watching the series and they're not like quite lined up.
Well, let me touch upon the idea of him potentially, feeding her something or giving her a drink, right?
Okay.
In Dr. Sleep, they take this stuff from people that have like the shining, the people have like that shining power, right? Which the shining, you can even kind of predict the future and stuff too, right?
Okay.
And so the people that are like vampires, I forget what the hell they're called. Danny's sitting there probably be like,
I haven't read this book, so I don't really know what you're talking about.
There are these people that are like vampires and they like suck the essence out of people that have the shining. And they call it steam. But in this, maybe he's given a little bit of his steam to Joan Allen because it like makes them get all charged up.
So you think he has the shining?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, I do. He's got something because, he disappears in this episode too.
What do you mean?
So there's one scene after the shooting. There's a flashback and Lisey goes to go check on him. She goes into the hospital bed and the woman's saying that he's in kind of rough condition. He's, under oxygen. So
because in the show, there's an attempt on his life, a murder attempt.
Yeah.
From a rabid fan.
Yeah. He gets shot and pretty early in the episode, and it's a big part of the beginning of the book too. And he's hospitalized, right? He's been shot multiple times. And she goes to check on him. And there's water running in the bathroom in the hospital room, and then he's not in the bed. And you're like, where the hell is this guy? He just got shot. How is he not in his bed? She goes and turns the water off. She goes back to the bed, and he's there. So to me, it's like he was someplace else.
Yeah, and there's something with water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you don't think that's like kind of metaphorical, like his mind was elsewhere? I'm wondering how much of this book and this series is going to be, this is where your mind is. It's not really where you are.
I think because
it's not where your body is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think because it's Stephen King, I think it's going to be literal. I think that it is going to be literal that he was someplace else.
Okay.
And it's funny, right? Because the guy Dashmiel in the beginning of the episode, when Scott gets shot, right? He's at this.
Scott gets shot.
He's at this like dedication for a library that's being built in his honor, and the guy Dashmiel is giving him all this praise, and he says something like, "No one has ever blended fantasy and reality as well as Scott has." And it's like, all right, Stephen King, we get it. You're pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm listening to the book, and I can't help but think about how Stephen King is writing this book about his wife mourning him after he's died. I mean, it feels very much like it's about Stephen King and his wife, and the book is dedicated to her. Mm-hmm. The beginning says for Tabby, which is, I guess, his wife, Tabitha King.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear these characters are based on him and his wife. Although I knew that Julianne Moore and Clive Owen would be playing them in the series, so I've been picturing them the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of it's literal. I can't help but think that this is Stephen King is sharing like a big part of himself here.
Yeah, well, so
is he haunted by like demons? I'm sure there's been tons of speculation about what really drives him and how he's able to produce these stories, and how much is his wife the wind beneath his wings, because that's what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have this like stalker guy who's played by who?
Dane DeHaan.
Dane DeHaan, who's always creepy and sort of disturbed with his shadows under his big eyes. He's just perfect for that part.
Yeah, he is. Okay, you put on some weight too, right?
He's just getting older. I think he's just getting older.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't really see that, but I lost my train of thought.
You're saying that he's playing the stalker. Dane DeHaan's playing the stalker, and so the writer has these problems, like Stephen King would have these stalkers, right?
Oh, what I was going to say is that there's a lot of like misogyny going on where there's a lot of focus on the fact that she shouldn't have the rights to this like famous fantastic man's work. You know, why is she even there? She was just a hostess he met and fell in love with. And like it's so belittling because in fact in their relationship she probably has a lot to do with inspiring him and being a part of who he is and what he creates. And like these characters that are treating her this way aren't recognizing that.
Yeah.
And why would they? What do they know? You know, what do we know about Tabitha, what she is to Stephen King, except that we know that she was with him before he ever wrote a book and before he was ever famous, and that they are still together. And she clearly probably has a lot to do with who he is and what he's able to produce.
Yeah.
I mean, how much, I think it's kind of an interesting question. How much is who you surround yourself? How much credit do they have for who you are?
Oh, geez, that's a deep question. I think
it is a deep question. So I think that this is going into that.
Well, Stephen King, even though he has written that kind of line, because he wrote the teleplay for this, right? He wrote that line about the author blending the fantastic and the real, right? But Stephen King always seems very humble when he talks about his own writing and about his family. And he's always talked up his wife, right? And it's very famous because he threw Carrie in the trash can, and his wife dug Carrie out of the trash can and read it and said that he should pitch this to people, and that was his first published book, right? So to answer your question, in my opinion, I think that he very much acknowledges his wife's importance. Now, the villains in this, because like I said, Stephen King wrote the teleplay. I think that by them being so misogynistic, like you're saying, where they don't even give her credit for any kind of influence she might have on her husband.
Well, not even the respect that she was his wife and that she needs to take her time and grieve. Like, right. They don't even care.
Right. I think that just really accentuates the danger, because Dane DeHaan is very dangerous seeming in this, right? He doesn't really do anything.
Unstable.
Yeah. There's actually quite a few great scenes with him. I first of all, I didn't even know he was in the show. And then in all of his scenes, I was like, oh, this is great. This is like perfect for him. You said that he was well cast or whatever, right? At one point he's talking on the phone and he's just, he calls, I don't think he initially calls her Yoko. I think the guy Dash Mail calls her Yoko, but it's so funny to call her Yoko Ono, right? But then there's this one scene where he's in the library that has now been built at this point, and the librarian's this nice kind of meek old lady. She goes up to him and he just kind of terrorizes her, right? What do you think of that scene?
I don't think it's the same library where Stephen King was breaking, or not Stephen King.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same library that Scott Landon was breaking ground on, because that was a college library. And this looked like a small town library.
Oh, okay. Very good point.
Where they said that she has gone and read to the children. I don't think that would be a college library.
Yeah.
Just saying, I don't think it's the same library. But that was a good scene. He's definitely menacing and creepy. They're establishing a villain.
Yeah. And that scene, as a little side note too, he's reading this book that has like a train on the cover. And I kept feeling that was a reference to maybe a book that Stephen King read when he was a kid, but also to The Dark Tower. Because in The Dark Tower, there's a children's book about a train.
Well, what is the book?
I think the kid's book is called Blame, because in the Dark Tower world, there's Blame the monorail.
Do you mean like a fictional book? I'm wondering if it's a real actual book that inspired the writer. I was trying to see the title. Yeah. I didn't see the word Blame. I saw something about Charlie.
It looked like Charlie. Yeah.
But I was wondering if that's a real book.
I can't remember in the Dark Tower if the book is a real book named Charlie or.
What about
Blame.
this?
It was definitely something called Charlie, but I think that had to be like sort of a Dark Tower reference, because it's like there's this kid's book in the Dark Tower of a train that has a personality, but then in the Dark Tower world of Midworld, it's like this menacing train that's on the tracks. It's great. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's okay. It's okay. Probably some people do.
I'm just curious if it's an actual children's book, because if it's an actual children's book that Stephen King credits, or it has said that Scott Landon is inspired by, there's probably an actual book that inspired Stephen King. And I'd love to know what that is. If anyone knows who's some sort of, someone who's a mega Stephen King fan who can tell us, I'd like to know.
And we know from our, Stan days that there's definitely Stephen King mega fans that watch this kind of stuff and comment. So please do.
Yeah, bigger fans than we are. We're fans, but like mild fans.
Shari, why don't we talk about the cast besides Dane DeHaan? Because I think that you were also impressed by the cast too, right?
Yeah, I didn't really know who was in this besides Julianne Moore and Clive Owen, but the two sisters are played by, I think, some heavyweights. You know, we have Jennifer Jason Leigh playing her sister Darla, and then the mentally disturbed sister Amanda is played by Joan Allen, and they're both really good actresses.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with them?
Well, thanks to you, I have a deeper appreciation of Jennifer Jason Leigh. I mean, we sort of watched some movies with her recently that, you know, she was in, but you've kind of talked about her a lot, you know, since we've been together. But I've really appreciated her in like Annihilation that came out recently, and then of course Possessor. And she, in both cases, she played this sort of like withdrawn, cynical kind of woman. Here, it seems like she's playing somebody a little different. She's, you know, caring about her sister. She's trying to get Joan Allen out of the tub at one point. I felt kind of bad for her.
Yeah, but she has a really long career. She's been in Hollywood since she was a teenager. Her first, you know, she's from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is, I've liked her,
right,
like from then, you know.
Yeah.
So she's been around for a long time. She's been nominated for Best Actress a few times for like some indie films that were like in the 90s and the 2000s. And she is a Stephen King vet. She is in Dolores Claiborne.
Oh yeah.
She plays Kathy Bates' daughter. It's really important.
Okay.
It's a major role.
We're gonna watch that one. I have not seen that one.
So good. It's one of my personal favorites. But yeah, she's in that. Joan Allen is like, what do you know her from Face Off?
Face Off. She's in Pleasantville.
She's excellent in Pleasantville. I always really like her parts because I remember seeing the previews for Pleasantville, and they don't really play up Joan Allen at all as the mother, who's like kind of the Beaver Cleaver mother, June Cleaver type person. But she actually has a really big part in the movie, and she's really good. Yeah.
Well, besides that, though, we also have our main characters, right? And I think you're a big fan of Julianne Moore, right?
Yeah.
And then Clive Owen.
One of the best actresses who's never won the Academy Award for Best Actress. That's a shame.
Yeah. Well, maybe now she'll get a Emmy, right? We'll see. Yeah, I think that might be going to Kate Winslet.
Yeah, I was just saying, Mare of Easttown. The Queen's Gambit's really good. I don't know. She's got some heavy competition this year.
And then Clive Owen. I've always been a big fan of Clive Owen since, like, I mean, one of the first movies I saw him in was like Centurion, but then he was also in like, you know, that one movie with Natalie Portman that's so good, Closer.
Yeah, he's got some really nasty monologues in that.
He says the heart. It looks like a fist. I always remember.
I always remember some of his like dialogue with Julia Roberts is really nasty.
Yeah.
But strong and good. The first thing I saw him in was the Robert Altman movie where he is one of the servants. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think of like Downton Abbey, but that's not what it is.
Downton Abbey is because like there wouldn't be Downton Abbey without this movie.
I know what you're talking about. Mansfield Park? Is that it?
No.
Goddard show?
Okay.
I don't know. Gosford Park. Yes, I was close.
Anyway, he's
together.
Really, he's one of the ensemble cast, but he ends up being one of the most important things. I don't want to give anything away about that movie, but he's really good in that. And actually, him and Julianne Moore have starred together in Children of Men.
Children of Men, that is one of my favorites.
Yeah, they were a married couple in that, so they already have kind of a natural chemistry.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to more scenes with them. I also wanted to bring up the little touch in this episode of Stephen King and his interest in pop culture. He's clearly a lover of pop culture, and they talk about the hit song from the 60s, True Love or Good Lovin'. Good Lovin', with the doctor, Mr. MD. Yeah, that's going to
you were laughing during that part.
Well, I just like that he acknowledges, I don't know, oldies like that. I like oldies too. So it seems like that's going to play into the show, right? It's going to be part of the clues in the hunt.
I assume.
The first clue that they showed in this episode is MD, something about MD.
Yeah.
Are you watching this?
Yeah, the first clue
the
first clue is the shovel, and then the second clue.
No, that's not what it said. It said something about MD. And then she's singing in her head, and they showed it and playing it at her wedding, so it's going to be something about that.
Right, the MD thing was wrapped around the shovel.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
It was. I'm talking about the question.
Yeah. I'm all down. Let's see. We got a little comment here from Adit. Oh, Adit, you're still around on the Anchorpete channel. That's awesome. He says, should I see this series? Is it any good? We just watched episode 1, Adit. If you got Apple TV, you check it out. You let us know what you think. But it's up to you. It's got a little bit of supernatural, and it's kind of a mystery so far. But it's your call, man. Anyway, Shari, should we stick with this show? That's a good question we can ask.
I'm definitely curious. I want to watch the next episode.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, I want to try to get as far into the book as I can, and then watch episodes 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, pretty much every single Stephen King adaptation I've read, every novel I've read, the adaptation is always not as good, which I know that's like, duh, right? But, and then didn't you say something like there was 4 sisters, there's 3 sisters instead of 2 in the book?
There's 4 sisters total.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure there's slight changes, which is interesting, though, because Stephen King is the one that wrote the teleplay. But, like, just an example, in that last episode of The Stand, he wrote that last episode. And I kind of really like that, even though Stephen King himself wrote it.
You and I talked about this, how we're not so sure. Like he's obviously an excellent, amazing writer, but is he the best at adapting a book to a show or to a movie? I don't think so. I think some of the best movies based on Stephen King's works, he's not involved in.
Yeah.
And he says himself he doesn't like those usually. Like, he doesn't like The Shining. But isn't that really, like, one of the best ones? I mean, it's Stanley Kubrick. It's classic.
I
think it's pretty fantastic.
The Shining is, like, really faithful to Stephen King's vision. It's more Stanley Kubrick's vision.
That's probably why he doesn't like it. But you have to sometimes deviate from the book to make a good movie, because a book doesn't always translate that well.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, movie as it is Stanley Kubrick's movie, right?
And Jack Nicholson's.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's bad. They're both really special.
But of course, like Dr. Sleep, it's just this great thing where it's like this sequel to that movie, but then also a sequel to the Shining book too. We gotta watch Dr. Sleep at some point.
Carrie, like Stephen King, had nothing to do with either, and it's one of the best.
Brian De Palma, yeah. And then Misery, I thought was pretty excellent too. I haven't read the book though. And then
I think it's pretty faithful.
Okay, yeah, that's Rob Reiner. So there's all different levels of quality. But we will see how this goes. Written by the King himself, and we want to know what you guys thought about this too. So we will probably release a video talking about episodes 2 and 3 together before next Friday, and then next Friday we'll watch episode 4 and we will review it for you.
Let us know what you think and tell us all the things we missed, because we're aware we don't know everything about Stephen King.
Yeah, oh yeah, boy, believe me, I know Stephen King fans like to point out the things that we missed or we disagree with us about. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. We will talk to you